Hi everyone. Welcome to NCBI's check-in seminars. These seminars are meant to inform and invite people to participate in discussing issues of the day for people with blindness and vision impairment across Ireland. Today, we're going to be discussing the challenges of accessing shopping during the current COVID-19 crisis. And we have our guest speaker with her today, Helena Mollaghan, who is a resident and a person who lives with blindness and low vision in Ireland. So welcome, Helena.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming along today and making the time to speak to us. So perhaps we might start, Helena, with you giving the listeners a little bit of a background into who you are, where you've come from, and anything you'd like to tell us about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Helena Mollaghan. I'm originally from Leitrim, but I've been living in Dublin, in South Dublin for the last 5 or 6 years now. It's actually hard to remember. It's been that long. Um, so I have retinitis pigmentosa. I say I was diagnosed when I was 14. I had symptoms for a lot longer before that, as a lot of people with RP can relate to. Um, but I was very functional up until I was about 14 or 15, and then it just dropped. So I'm a guide dog user. I've had a guide dog for the last 3 years. Before that, I was a cane user for about a year. Um, and that's pretty much my story. Nothing too exciting.
Do you mind me asking how old you are now, Helena?
I'm 23 now. I just turned
20.
23 2 weeks ago.
So, oh, congratulations.
Thanks.
So, so it's been about 8 years then. Is that right? Would that be right?
It's
That you've been doing, yeah.
yeah,
So
it's been yeah, wow, it's been about 8 years since I
yeah,
I was diagnosed. I think the diagnosis hit me when I was 16 or 17. That's when I
right.
started to grieve it and learn to accept it. But I had symptoms since I was probably 7 or 8 when I look back.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That must have been a very difficult time for you. And here you are out in the world. Can you tell us a little, when it comes to getting around in the world generally, can you tell us what mobility aids you use and how you've been accessing the world and shopping in particular before all the pandemic arrived upon us?
Yeah, so before the pandemic, well, I use a guide dog still now. I've used a
Okay.
guide dog for 3 years for mobility. Before that, I was a cane user. Um, in terms of accessing shopping, I was either getting online grocery shopping for the heavier products
Mm-hmm.
um, every couple of weeks. Um, Other than that, I would usually go to my local Tesco's and then get a taxi back if I had more than one bag, because with the guide dog, it's very difficult to bulk buy because have a dog in one hand and you have one bag of shopping in the other hand. That's all you can carry. Maybe a backpack with a few extra
My goodness. Yeah,
essentials.
and that's probably something. Thanks for bringing that up, Helena, because that issue of having one hand that's completely taken with, in your case, a guide dog, or other people's, I guess, a white cane, means that you only have one hand free
Yeah.
to carry bags. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
very important issue. And did that work for you beforehand? Was there online shopping available? How did you getting around the shops before all the social distancing measures? How was it then?
Yeah, online shopping was fine. It
Mm.
was you could get your shopping within a week. There was slots available, but since the pandemic started, there's been 3 week wait periods between shopping, and then because you can only carry one bag of shopping at a time, it forces you in between those periods to go out to shops
Oh, of
and
course.
maintain social distancing, or trying to, which is frankly quite impossible to do when you're vision impaired or blind.
Tell
Um,
me, tell me about that, Helena, because I think that's a big issue for a lot of people with vision impairment now out there,
it's huge.
the two
Yeah.
meters distance. How do you do it?
You can't. I'm fortunate that I have some level of functional eyesight still at the moment, but I kind of get this conflict because I want to keep my distance when I'm walking with Alfie, when Alfie's walking me down a path to the
Mhm.
local shop or just out to my 2 kilometers exercise. And I find myself almost telling Alfie, Alfie, move to the left, move to the right a bit to avoid brushing off people because I find other people are not as aware. They're not really keeping their social distance, and they're almost expecting us to do it. And I get conflicted because I don't want to brush up against them, but it shouldn't be my job because I don't know how near or
Mhm.
far to them I am. I don't have good depth perception, and it's harder in shops than when you're trying to access a shop, um, and get your grocery shopping because you don't know how near or far you are to somebody when you're trying to reach for something on a shelf, and you have to peer closer to things to read them, and then it's very tactile when you're visually
Mhm.
impaired. It's very tactile as well. You have to feel for things, and it's difficult. It's the whole
That's
COVID-19's been difficult.
that's a really good point what you've just mentioned there. If I can get you to talk a little bit more about that, the very fact that tactileness is a very important part of a person with blindness and low vision to find things. So when you're in a shop and you're having to touch things, could you explain that to listeners who may not perhaps understand how important that is and how you would normally find things in a store?
Yeah, when you don't have good eyesight or you don't see at all, you really depend on your sense of touch to find
Mm-hmm.
things that you need and that you use. You know what type of shampoo you use from the shape of the bottle,
Really?
and yeah, and you need to be able to feel and touch that. And you can't touch anything now with the pandemic in case of transmitting or getting the virus. So this pandemic has actually taken away even more independence for people because that's essentially people as well as the dog or the king. That's their eyes. That's our eyes. That's how we
Yes.
find things.
Well, thank you for that. That's a really important point that I think probably the average person may not realize the whole
Yeah.
sense of touch and how it's been compromised now because of this, sanitary and cleaning perspective, the things that are happening in stores. So when you do go into the store, could you describe right now and you're lining up to get in, how staff are staff aware or how they might help you during the, if you were giving them a message right now, what would you say to the staff in all the stores?
Um, to be aware that the person doesn't see you. I mean, I had one situation where I had managed to find the queue into a pharmacy because I have that little bit of sight. And I think Alfie had picked up that we couldn't really go in because it was sort of a barrier. But
Mm-hmm.
the lady who was telling people wait before the next person comes out and then you can go in, she'd kind of walked away to another side of the shop. And when another person came out, I was looking at her, kind of wondering, is she going to come back and tell me, can I go in? And I could kind of see her, but kind of couldn't. And I could kind of see her moving her head. And I wasn't sure if she was telling me I could go in or not, but she was hinting at me with that head shake thing, you can go in. And I'm just kind of thinking, like, hello, guide dog.
Yeah,
Hi, I don't see very well. Can you come up to me from a socially distant level and say, hi,
yeah,
you're welcome to come
yeah,
in now. The counter is straight in front of you, or whatever it is that you need.
yeah.
But I find that's been an issue regardless of the COVID-19. I mean, when I do get my grocery shopping, very rarely, if at all, does any staff ever come up and ask, is there anything that you're looking for that you need? And when they shift, recently Tesco's shifted around their aisles, so they moved
Mhm.
everything around, and I had been used to the layout, and I knew where
Oh,
everything was, and I couldn't find anything.
oh, that would
And
have been
it,
terrible. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it was pretty obvious I couldn't find what I was looking for, but nobody had ever offered
Nobody
to
came up.
come up and
Yes,
you can do that from a social distance.
I think the dearth of customer service of people actually approaching people in stores generally might have died a long time ago. Unless you go and ask, there's nobody wandering around saying, "Can I help you?" And what I'm hearing you say is that's even more difficult and for you, for people in your position, because you even outside of the COVID-19 pandemic,
Mm.
to for staff to have that awareness of what's going on around them and who might look like they need help. So maybe we could have a reinstatement of courtesy shopping and staff being more aware. You will be happy to hear though that NCBI has written to all the major retailers in Ireland, asking them to ask their staff to be more proactive in approaching customers who may not see the lines drawn on the floor, who may not know about where to stand, who may also need help for things that you're talking about, who may not be able to find things. And we've also asked the retailers to invite people with blindness and low vision to participate in the designated shopping hours for priority customers as well. So whilst you've been addressing, sorry, yeah?
Yeah, I think that's something that people, like the general public, could be aware of as well, as that, you, someone who's vision impaired or blind, they're trained to specific routes. Whether you have a guide dog or whether you learned
Yeah,
it with your mobility instructor, you know how to get from your house to your shop or to wherever you need to
yeah.
go by a certain way. And that doesn't change, because if that changes, you get disorientated, you don't know where you are. So we're not being rude if the dog brings us directly into the storefront
Yeah,
and we're not queuing up. The dog doesn't know that. They don't know the 2 meter rule. They don't know these things. They're not trained to do these things. I mean, we don't expect a pandemic to happen. We don't plan for a pandemic to happen. So
no.
this just isn't the norm. So I think that's just something that the public might be more aware of, is that we're not
Yeah,
being rude by skipping the queue. It's just that's all we know.
and the dog, as you say, is trained to come up to that point and take you in that particular way. So, Helen, I forgot, I didn't mention at the beginning of our webinar that, of course, you're one of NCBI's trained advocates. So thank you for undertaking that training as part of the NCBI's National Advocacy Network. And I guess hat on. How might you approach addressing some of these lack of awareness issues in the community generally, and particularly during the current pandemic?
I think the key to getting information out there for anything is social media. It's just it's the quickest, it's the fastest way, it's the most effective way. And I think that some sort of a awareness campaign online, videos of people's experiences, get people talking, rally us together. I think we need to come together as a community rather than individually to raise this awareness. I think that we're on the back burner, and it annoys me so much, but we're on the back burner of people's minds when it comes to anything, and disability as an overall. And we need to come together as a community and campaign this and get the awareness out there and get the facts right and get rid of the myths.
Well, wonderful. Can you think of any of those myths for me? A couple of myths that people might not be aware of?
It's not black and white. That's the biggest one I find, is that it's not you don't see anything or you see everything. That one really gets me. Like, people are always coming up to me like, "Oh, so you train your dog?" No, I just don't see very well, but I can still see my phone a little bit for now, or the technology of the phone allows me to use it. But that's a big one. Just because you have your phone out doesn't mean that you have perfect vision.
So you think the community thinks it's all or nothing? You can or you can't see. They don't realize the variation
I
in
think
vision.
unless you've experienced somebody who has it, like a family member or a friend, that stigma still is there. Yeah.
And on an individual level, the individual that's out there may be encountering some of those things. I totally agree with you about the collective approach. But on an individual level, when a person's experiencing some of these in a shop, do you think there's any, well, how they might go about addressing that individually? How they might,
don't fear saying something about it. Call the shop, call the manager, put it in email, whatever is the easiest way for you to do that. Say it. The more we say it individually, the more we get the message out there. Because I think I rang a store last week because I didn't feel that they were adhering to the social distancing. There was too many people in that store for adequate social distancing to happen. And I called them and I spoke to that store, to the manager there, and I explained to them that it's not, your shop is narrower, your stalls or your aisles are a bit more narrow than the average shop. So there should be less people being let in because you can't maintain social distance.
Great, well done.
That's what you need to do.
So I guess going home and doing that gave you a little bit of time in between the event to calm down a little bit and approach it. Yeah, but great. So both the individual and collective approaches you're advocating for, that we come together as a group of people with the support of organizations like NCBI, and also on an individual level, think calmly about how you might give feedback to shops, and about how they might better accommodate your needs as a shopper in their shops, either during the pandemic or any other time.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's about being proactive in your approach to get the effective benefit out of it, if that makes any sense, for what you're looking for, what you want to get out of it. I think reacting to it immediately is not helpful, because sometimes you're too pent up and bent up
Yeah.
to get out what you want in the right way that makes sense and that gets your point across. I think you need to take time to kind of think about it and sit and get it in your head before you approach how you want that aspect to change of the situation that you were in. Or
Oh, it's pretty clear you've taken on board your advocacy training strategies, Helena. Yeah, a very important part of any response to, because it is a very personal issue when you're feeling, out of your comfort zone in a shop, or you're not getting your needs met, and you're put in a difficult situation. So the deep breath, think calmly, talk to somebody else if you need to, but and respond, as you say, rather than react.
yeah.
So I guess going forward in the pandemic, is there anything that NCBI needs to do for people with blindness and low vision? Can you give us any other ideas that we might support you in accessing shopping in a better way?
I think NCBI needs to keep promoting this idea of awareness, to keep it keep it on people's radar that we are here, that we still need the support, we still need you to keep the social distancing, not to let those habits break down. We need to encourage people to build up those habits, and I think that requires a continuous active social media presence.
Promotion. So
Yeah,
continuous promotion.
and these webinars and these podcast type things, this needs to keep happening to get the message out there.
Right. And of course, everybody also knows about NCBI's helpline, 1850 33 43 53, that anybody can ring up and get some advice about all of these things. So I guess, is there anything else you'd like to say to us today before we bring our webinar to a close?
No, I think that's it. I'm looking forward to hearing other people's stories from across the country, to hear what other issues people are having, because mine are individual to me, but I think there's probably lots of things that are happening that we aren't aware of yet. So
Well, thank you so
I
much
don't really
for
know.
coming. Oh, I think you've put out some great ideas today, Helena. Thank you so much for your time today, and good luck with all your advocacy work out there. It sounds like you're certainly a great representative for an NCBI trained advocate. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that's our webinar today, folks. And we thank Helena for all those insights into what it's like to be a person with blindness or vision impairment out in the community, especially during this COVID pandemic time. Once again, NCBI's helpline is 1850 33 43 53, and we also have an adaptive technology helpline if any of you need some help with adaptive technology issues, of 1850 92 30 60. And stay tuned. As Helena suggested, we'll be having lots more webinars in the future about topics that are of interest to you. Thanks for your time today.